name is Drew Fish, and I'm an alcoholic. Jack, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm not surprised how nice the food and everything is, and the home group, because Jack invited me about 6 months ago, and so I knew everybody to be prepared. I'm not nervous at all. I've done this several times. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, because miracles do happen, and I want to share that. My sobriety date is April the 16th, 2001. My home group is There Is a Solution. We meet in Holly Springs at the United Methodist Church on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. And we'd certainly love to have anyone here. I don't mind doing this. My sponsor's name is Jerry Weaver. And I said my name is Drew Fish because my sponsor always uses his last name too, because you know, as long as he doesn't leave this group when we're in here, he told me if somebody needed some help, that I need to be sure that they can find me. And that's why I do that. I don't have any notes because years ago when I would speak, I would study my book and I would make myself some notes, and it was very scripted, and it went from my heart and soul, and I'd plagiarize some things, and I'd make up some things that other people said and stuff like this. What are you doing? So it takes time for me to learn those things, but and I really am happy to be here because people ask me all the time. They say, Drew, what finally made you decide to come in at the Alcoholics Anonymous? And I said, decide? I didn't decide nothing. I said, the alcohol chased me in here. I said, but really it's had a lot to do with no food and nowhere to sleep. Because on April 16, 2001, there was about 6.4 billion people on our planet, and I had nowhere to go. Not one place to go. That's how many bridges I had burned. And I did live here for a long time, and I remember very distinctly when I think about drinking. And matter of fact, I'm not a public speaker. I've got an aggravated case of alcoholism, and that's why I'm here. And if you read in our foreword to the first edition, it said that we'll be interested to hear from those who've had results from our book. And that's been my experience. But I made a phone call to my youngest son from the payphone right across from Squire's Pub at the Shell station. And my 15-year-old son said, Dad, don't call here anymore. And I wasn't allowed to go on their property. I couldn't go to my mom's house. I had restraining orders. I'd be locked up. And I had someone that picked me up to take me to Raleigh to get my restraining orders papers from the judge, from my mother, which that's the last resort. Mom's going to have anything to do with you. That's the end of the ball game. And I told the guy, I said, listen, man, I really appreciate you taking me, but I got no hope. I got no hope. I can't do it. I got to figure out some way for y'all to kill me, because I know I'm going to hell if I kill myself. So I got to figure this out some way or the other. And that's how bad it was. And certainly my daughter and things. And I'll tell you about those things, but then there's some good parts. But I want to tell you about my life. I had the greatest parents I could ever ask for. They were married for way over 50 years. My dad died in 2005. I had 6 brothers and sisters. One of my brothers is deceased. He was 18 months older than I am, and Alcoholics Anonymous, and my God has helped me walk right through it. And my sponsor told me it wasn't any of my business what God decided to do. They just saved me and just helped me every step of the way. My life has gotten better for over 4,000 days in a row, being a committed member to Alcoholics Anonymous. And the first day I got here, I hated y'all so much. Y'all were ignorant, and y'all were the losers, and I was so smart. And thank God wouldn't anybody feed me for a period of time where the book talks about the 100 days till my mind cleared up, until I understand what the problem was. And certainly it was me. And but just so grateful that, I've been to 6 or 7 treatment centers. I've been involuntary committed 3 times. I've been shaving myself in the shower at Dorothea Dix Hospital because I was shaving the bugs off of me because they shot me with that Thorazine and the hot wire and everything else, So it's it's pretty bad, and every day was what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And that was my problem. What am I going to do? And ever since I was a little boy, it's what I was going to do and what I wanted to be. And I was telling you, my family was great. I wanted to be the best student. I wanted to be the best athlete. I wanted to have the prettiest girlfriend in the world. As a matter of fact, she's here. She divorced me 24 years ago, but she's here now. But I just had to have the very best, and it was, and that's what Alcoholics Anonymous will do for you. But it's, I had this plan, and that's what I wanted to be. And I started lying about who I was. If I made 3 B's and an A, I told everybody I made all A's. And if I, and my whole life was about that. It was fabrication and dishonesty and low self-esteem. And I was just miserable because I would lay down every night and I would be a fake and a phony, and I didn't want y'all to know that I was a fake. And I wasn't what our book talks about our stage character. And I bring my book, and I really won't go into it much. This is what AA and people, men with experience, have helped me all the way since day one. A guy told me one time, he said, "Drew, if your book's as torn up as mine is, your life may not be quite as torn up." And so here's my first book that I got, and it's pitiful, the writing on the side and everything. And I've given away an awful lot of books, but I'm sorry, I can't give you this one. But I'll get back on my stories, and that's what my whole life was, a fake and a phony. And I worked very, very hard. I was a very diligent worker because I wanted my dad to be proud of me, and I wanted him to tell me that I was the best son that he could ever have. And he never asked for that, and my mom never asked for that. And I just drove toward those things. And then I laid at night, I said, you're not all this. And because I would, fabricate those things. And my drinking experience started when I was about probably 17, because I was scared of my father, because he lived a very humble and honorable life and everything, and I was scared what he'd do to me. But I drank for the effect, like the book said. You guys that are like 100 years old like me, we started out with the 32-ounce Budweisers. There we go. I know, don't tell on yourself, but me and some of the guys, we would chug that 32-ounce and everything and get drunk as we could be, and I did it for the effect. And that way I could call Sylvia, and I could call the girls, and I could dance better, and I thought I could sing better, but it really didn't help that much. And that's what I did. And these Drew Fish goals, I started achieving them. School was pretty easy. I still read and write on about a 5th grade level, but I could retain, did well in school. And the girl in the athletics, I did very, very well. I drove myself very, very, very hard because to me, in my mind, it wasn't acceptable. But and those things were important to me. So I would drink on the weekends, and I would drink to get drunk, and I was a throw-up blackout drinker. And then I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to be the best college student and the best college athlete, and I got a lot of attention in those areas. And East Carolina, I was willing to pay for my education, my books, my meals, my lodging, and everything. And I had arrived, and I was the man, and the rules started not applying to me. But and I started out drinking on the weekends in college, and I would get drunk every single time. And I would get drunk every Saturday night when I was a freshman. And when I was a sophomore, I'd get drunk every Friday and Saturday night. Then when I was a junior, I'd get drunk every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And then it kind of got worse. And then I went to work right out of college. And I had to be the best at my job. And if I did reach certain levels at my job, I would lie to everybody and call everybody on. And every time we start talking about business, I was just a pathological liar because I just didn't like who I was. Just totally insane, which, I'll tell you later, how much of these AAs helped me be. But then, I was working. I got married probably a year and a half, 2 years maybe, 2 years after I got out of college, and just ego, just crazy, out of whack, and I was young and selfish, and I was not a good husband. I was too selfish and too immature. And anybody in this room that is married or in a committed relationship, if you're dishonest about those things like that, I'm going to tell you it's a really, really, really bad idea. And it'll eat your guts out and it'll kill you. And I have no right to treat people that way. And my sponsor has beat this in my head and over and over and over again about right's right and wrong's wrong. And part of my night step work, I want to make that real clear. And if my sons want to do things like that, they better not come around their father. Because I'm going to take a real hard line on things like that. But, I kind of leave the husband thing like that, and I just wasn't any good. And just had to lie every single day. And I lied to my insurance company. And here we go with that Drew Fish plan again. I wanted the education. I wanted the sports. And it just fell right into place for me. It was easy and everything. And I wanted financial success and everything. That was extremely easy. And so here I go, and I wanted this girl and everything. And that went, she must have been blind for a couple of years or whatever. But that worked out for me. And then my children, just started coming right away. And my ego was so bad. They said, Drew, that's three, just bam, bam, bam. I said, have you seen my wife? That ego and stuff coming out there. But I did that, and then I worked myself in this spiritual disease, and I didn't have any choice but to drink over it. And I just started drinking all the time, and I told you right to start with that I was an alcoholic. And what that means is when I start drinking, I cannot stop. I can't do it. I've tried everything. I've tried drinking on the weekend. I've tried drinking beer. Just like the book says, I'm only on holidays when I'm happy, when I'm sad, And I know y'all heard a bunch of times where I said, well, which part, Drew, in the book is about you? I said, the black parts, all the black parts, But then I start progressing, and then my business career, the Drew Fish plan, it started escalating. It started getting better and better. And you either worked for me or I supported you. And everything that came out of my mouth was the truth, because you had to, because I paid the bills and I ran the show. And I want to tell you, it destroyed me. Having no accountability. I moved away from my family, which was Fuquay, Varina, and I was far enough away where they couldn't see what I was doing. And I want to tell you again, it destroyed me. Because when I'm in charge and I run the show and I don't have anybody to be accountable to, or anybody that was in a position to stand up to me and everything, it ruined me. And that spiritual disease and that ego and that false pride and thing just started eating my guts out every single day. And certainly the natural attrition to my behavior, I worked myself into a divorce. And that happened, and then it started getting worse and worse and worse, and I was drinking every single day. And also I got, just like the Alka-Seltzer Plus, I got Alcohol Plus, because I'd take and do anything I could get my hands on so I didn't have to feel me, and I didn't have to deal with me. And it meant everything, And people ask me all the time, because we have a lot of drug addicts and Alcoholics Anonymous, and after meetings, they'd say, I heard you had a severe heroin problem. Do you have a heroin problem? I said, no, I didn't have a heroin problem. I had a running out of heroin problem. That's when all problems, that's when the problems started, And if it was in there, I'm okay and everything. That's why me and Chelsea's got a little special deal on everything. We understand certain things together, and I'm glad you're here too. It's good to see you. And I didn't know my sister either was a celebrity. I said, "There's 120 people in here, and she picked you right out, Caroline. Come on." I handed my book, and I said, "You may need to speak." Well, I get in these ruts and everything, and then my life starts falling all to pieces. As a direct result of being an alcoholic and my uncontrollable drinking, and it got worse. I lost my contract with Nationwide Insurance Company, which was an astronomical lick financially for our family and my children, and certainly my wife. But I ran around from here to there, but it just started getting so bad, and then I'd lose the house and everything, and I started not having places to live, and I ended up. I used to have a home here, a nice home here in Southern Pines, and one in Myrtle Beach, and I'm riding a girl's bicycle with no driver's license, with a basket on the front, around town. No kidding. I'm riding a basket, and people say, "Hey, Drew." I said, "Yeah, hey, what's up, man?" I said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm great. I'm riding this bicycle." And I got babies and stuff. And I'm just so tangled up in this disease. And then finally, I pushed it to the end, and I got a ride. A guy gave me a ride from the old Holiday Inn that they tore down. They took me to downtown Raleigh, and I got the paper served on me. And the judge there, he gave me a card of a homeless shelter, and that's what I worked myself into. And he said, "Son, you really need to do something." But then I tried to get my mommy to slip me back home. Didn't work. Then I tried. I said, take me to dance. Take me to my sister's. She said, "No, that's not what's up. We're not going out." Nope. So they took me to a homeless shelter, and I was the smartest homeless shelter person on the planet. And it really, but the wonderful thing, they had a recovery program. And I went, so I was going to be the best homeless shelter contestant in the world, Same stuff. I said, okay, what's up with this deal here? Oh, by the way, Jack, before I go, what time? About 5 or 10 to 8 is when we'll stop? 9, I mean? 9. Yeah, I'm like I'm 100. Yeah, so that's good. My first attraction to AA was y'all stopped on time. Y'all stopped at 8 or 9 o'clock, and you didn't sing "Just As I Am" till 10:45. Are you serious again? But y'all stopped. So that was cool. I was cool with y'all. I started liking y'all. Y'all got cool all of a sudden. Y'all got cool. But I get to this shelter, and first of all they said, we're gonna walk down to another shelter for a class. I said, "Yeah, y'all gonna walk." I'm gonna find somebody to drive me. I said, "No, you can't. This is a motivational track." So I had to do these things in order to have a place to sleep. Because this sleeping outside and, being from bush number 6, on the side of the road, that's for the birds for me, I was the man. I was talking trash to everybody until I had to crawl up against that bush. Now, that wasn't no good. But we get in there, and I stay at the homeless shelter, and I get me a couple buddies. I get me a couple of guys that are walking with me every day. They had it was a great model, at this shelter. Some guys we were walking, and then there were some guys that weren't serious, and there's a miracle. I got that unmerited favor, that grace from Almighty God that allowed me the right people came. They showed up, and the guys that wouldn't play any games with me. They said, "Yeah, big talk. You live in a homeless shelter, man. Maybe your mommy will come get you for lunch or something." And I'm 44 years old, and then I get to that period where I finally went to those classes, and of course I sat on the front row, and I kind of started figuring out what the problem was, and then I stayed like 30 days, And I think, I said, well, I stayed long enough for my mom, to give me some money. Didn't happen this time. First time. As a matter of fact, she's got a plate right next to her chair with my sobriety date on it the day she loved me enough to put me out. And I went and bought that for her. And she's got it every day. And that's a real special day for her because that really hurt her really bad. She's 85 now. She's my girl. But, I'm here at this shelter, so I'm going to be the president of the shelter. And these guys, we could go to night meetings, and these guys would pick me up and everything. And I kept figuring out they would ask me to go to work for them since I was a genius, and such a professional. But they were there early, and they would buy me some coffee, and they were driving their car, and I'm sitting there saying, okay, when's the hit? When you come in with the real deal, what are you doing? And then finally I figured out, I said, these guys just want to help me. I said, I got me an organization that makes the Rotary Club and the JCs look stupid. I said, I got some guys that don't want anything from me. They just want to help me be a better person and help me stop drinking. So automatically, president of AA, right here, baby, here I am. I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to save y'all. It's really funny. That's such a joke. It's pathetic. But I always had that in my mind, And I've seen it. I've seen the Drew Fishes come to Alcoholics Anonymous over and over and over and over again. And I'm the one that God decided to allow me to stay. And it's just, and that's what it is, really. I mean, I kind of had to do the footwork, but I just one of the lucky ones, and I don't take that lightly. That's why I'm always willing to be of service. But, I'm at this shelter and I'm with these guys, and they say you got to get a sponsor. And this guy had come by my house, Jerry Weaver had come by my house at my mommy's when I was riding the bike. And he picked me up and took me to a meeting, and I kept explaining to him, about how to get sober a day at a time as we go to this meeting. And I remembered this guy, but he took me to 2 meetings, and then when I was locked up, and when I was telling all the inmates in the Wake County Jail about how smart I was, I'll jump around a little bit because, like I said, I don't go with the nut deal. That's I go get locked up, and I'm telling the guys, about my family and how affluent and things were and what have you. And on a Saturday morning, the guard came and said, Fish, you have a visitor. And I jumped up, cursing everybody. I told y'all, ignorant, blah, blah, blah. My mama's come get me. I told y'all, and here we go. And I go get shackled and everything. And here I go down the hall, and shackled up with both hands, going, my mom's going to bail me out of jail, for sure. And I was laughing at everybody. And I was sitting in that cubicle. And this guy came around the corner and sat down in front of the glass. I picked up that phone and said, where's my mom? He said, hey, man, how you doing? I said, I don't know, take a look. I got this orange jumpsuit that I break out in when I start drinking, But, I said, yeah. I said, what do you want? He said, I want to come by and see you and see if you're all right and let you know when you get out of jail if I can help you. I'd like for you to call me. I'll try to help you. I said, okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Time out. We got to have a time out here. Don't you have a wife? He said, yeah. I said, have you got a car? He said, yeah. I said, have you got golf clubs? He said, yeah. I said, what are you doing up here? He said, man, don't get confused or anything. He said, I just want to help you. And I thought I'd stop by here and let you know that I'll be available to help you if you need any help. And I went down that hall in that orange jumpsuit, and I said, if they ever let me out of here, I'm going to find out what that guy was doing up there on a Saturday morning at the Wake County Jail, seeing a guy like me that nobody would talk to. And this book is wrapped up in it, telling him what to do. They gave him specific instructions of how to be of service to others and maximum service to God and his mankind. And this book said it over and over and over and over. That's why he was there. And it was real easy. And guess what? I had men sit down with me several times and read every word of the first 104 pages of this book, which the step work is in there, out loud, and asked me did I want to follow the directions in there, which told him what to do while he was there. And I've done it myself for other men. Patrick, 3 times?
Yeah.
At least 3. Okay, yeah. And it goes like this, and I'm just 100%. Here's the solution to alcoholism. It's in this book. And I told that guy, I told him right to start with when I'd been here about 6 days, I said, I can eat that book, much less learn what's in it. You know, which is that ego and stuff. I'm full of it the whole time. But, you know, it's in the book, and the answer's in the book, and I've sponsored a lot of guys over time, and everything's in the book. And I sponsor the people the way I was sponsored. I get questions all the time. I say, okay, get your book. Open up this page right here, read it back to me. Okay, it's not a debate. You want to follow the directions, go do it, yes or no. And I said, you know, follow the directions, you know, call me back, let me know what your results are. Or tell me you're not going to do it. But I get into step works with a sponsor, and read the words out loud. And, you know, I finally admit that I'm the dummy. My life was unmanageable. And I really didn't believe it for a couple of years. You know, I lied. Steps 2 and 3, you know, I went to vacation Bible school in Fuquay, so me and God were tight. Lie. Okay? You know, I mean, it was everything was about me. And then I had people at this shelter that paid for me. They paid the lights and instructions, and I got to write about all my problems and my resentments and my fears and my harms to others. And I got to write about it. And I wrote, and I did the best job that I possibly could do, and I wrote and wrote and wrote. And this guy, he sat down with me to move to another step and everything, and I was so proud of myself, and I will never forget it. If I live to be 200, I'm already 100. He took my paperwork, and I was a proud student. You know, I was going to be a good member in his living room, and he spread all that work across the floor that I'd written and everything. He said, you know, I have heard over and over again, did you hear what happened to Drew Fish? He's such a nice person. Did you hear what happened to Drew Fish? He's such a good businessman. He's such a nice person. He said, I need to tell you something. He said, that is a sorry excuse for a friend, a father, a son, or a businessman. And we got it in writing. We got it documented. And he said, now the good news is we got another step to move through, and we got to start moving on a spiritual path and not be this guy no more, because we got it documented. We know what the problem is. Alcoholics Anonymous is not very difficult. I've sponsored a lot of guys. I've heard at least over 50, 60, over 60 fifth steps. Been through the steps a lot of time and everything. And I'll go ahead and caution the newcomer. You get all your information what the problem is your spiritual disease, where the only solution is a spiritual experience. If you don't believe it's on page 44, we agnostics, it'll explain that to you. If you got what Drew Fish has got, that's the only solution, is a spiritual experience, and that's a profound change in behavior and attitude. Okay? So here we got all this information. Now I get to choose whether I want to be that guy or not. And then I got this guy helping me every step of the way. And I get a job, and I start doing a little better, and I'll call him and ask him, I'm thinking about doing this. And the answer is, we wrote all this down a few months ago. How about taking a look at that and see how that worked out for you? A relationship. Let's read it back to you. Failure, 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 failure. Loser, 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 double loser, another loser. You know, I mean, really. You know, oh yeah, let's try it again. You know, come on. And I see it. Please let me caution the newcomer and everything. When you get your evidence, be real careful with who you are, what kind of person you are when you walk out of these rooms. And I sponsor a lot of guys, like I said. And Patrick, how many times Patrick has heard this? A zillion times. I say, okay, be sure you have some evidence to support what you fixing to tell me. Now go, I'll wait. He said, man, I got to come back tomorrow and get my stuff, get it right. Because, people like me, I know because I was that person, I would start talking about things that I had no evidence that I knew what I was talking about. and had no results whatsoever, which is a level of immaturity that's unbelievable. And also you'll find out if you're committed to your step work that, and the book addresses this very, very clearly, just about everything that you call your sponsor about is going to be a level of immaturity. Just about a lot, most all of them is going to be, I'm not getting what I want, or I'm going to lose something I got. And I'm scared, and I'm mad, and I want it. And put me on the top of the list. But I'm not exempt from these things in my experience, for sure. And then I get to, we get to move on our step work. I get to make those amends, and I got to put them in writing, and I got to make them. And I suffer from severely strong sponsorship. The financial amends took me 66 months, and I didn't get to take my birthday off, and I couldn't get to take Christmas off. I knew my mom would let me off of her for Christmas, but with the sponsorship, I wasn't allowed to do that. Simple things like I was 4 years sober and had to finish my amends because it was 66 months, and I wanted to buy a house, and I called him and say, man, I'm going to get this house over at Devil's Ridge. Brett knows where it is, and this, that, that's got a pool, He said, man, I think that's great. I think you need to get it. He said, however, based on my experience, be sure all the money belongs to you if you put any in it. I said, well, let me explain something. He said, wrong guy. Click. And then I get to make those choices. And, having had a spiritual awakening and a God consciousness that he's sitting on the dashboard, he's in your pocket, and he's around. But don't get me wrong, I don't have no authority on it. If I'm not here with Jack L., if I'm not here with him and with the Pats and the Toms, and the Carolines and the meetings and the support and everything, I'll be off. I'll get off the middle of that beam, and then I'll get all the way off to the side, and I know it'll happen. And everything, so that's why we get to stay right here. But then we get to moving along, and steps 2 and 3. When I had that direct pipeline from my God, the way I understand it, I was explaining to me, I got to seek for my relationship with God. And I want to tell you, my relationship with God has changed just about every day for over 4,000 days in a row. It's gotten better. Because, I was really, 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 really sick when I got here, and I've gotten a little better. And I've been able to have a lot more experience about what was really going on. But, and then I go through, and I get my step work, and I get a home group, and, I start moving these things along, and I would say I was sober about 2 years, and I lied to everybody about my relationship with God. I ain't got there yet, but I'm guilty. I lied about it. Sorry. You got me. But the thing about it is, what I've learned is I'm in the right place where it's okay, and I'm pretty sure I'm not by myself, but I might be. I'm not going to say that I am. But, because the prayer was foreign to me. It was, and what I got, I had men to teach me how to pray. I started out with, Fred F. told me, he said, Drew, just start with relieve me from the bondage of self. And my sponsor would always pray before we'd have our step work, and he would always say, God, help us to forget what we think we know about ourselves, what we think we know about you, and what we think we know about Alcoholics Anonymous, and give us a new experience. Man, that was the best cheat sheet I believe I've ever gotten. And guess what? He just handed it to me. Just handed it to me, just gave it to me. But then, I'm able to go to work, and what happens, or what happened to me, was I got challenged every day of my life on my step work. I get mad at work, and my resentments would come up, and my anger, and my fears, and my immaturities would come up. And I had a support group and home group members and a sponsor that would give me the right direction on what was really going on, because I'm that guy that wants what I want when I want it, and I can't see anything else for what I want. And these men have helped coach me along as things moved on. But I was able to go to work, and then the family afterwards, it's A lot of people I've sponsored have kind of skipped over that. But it gave me clear directions how to deal with my children. My L Boogie's here too. My daughter's here. She had to take care of my brothers for a long, long time, or help with them when her daddy was a blooming idiot. But thanks for coming, honey. She gonna be mad about me singing the rap. I can't help it. But but you know, I mean, I owe it to tell the truth. I mean, because that's the truth. And I had to start out trying to be a friend and not be a dad because I hadn't been a dad, you know, and I had to understand who was the parent and who was the jerk and who was the homeless guy, you know, and I'm able to get, most all the guys that I sponsor, you know, have been sperm donors and not dads, you know, sorry, but that's been my experience. And, but the book told me, you know, that I had to just be a family member, that I wasn't a dad, and it coached me along, and certainly they responded not to what I said because they heard all that music and all that pitches and everything over the years and everything, and they were able to look at what they actually saw. And I was able to, you know, demonstrate things of maturity and what a father really does, and I'm able to pass that on because I've improved. I got a lot of work to do, but I'm improving. I'm getting better. You know, I feel like it, you know, every day. But yeah, I have those things, and then I get in those. I got in those amends things, and I learned a lot about myself. That it's okay to have failed and made mistakes, because I wouldn't admit it. I was one of those guys that if you didn't have the tape and didn't have me on film and didn't have the recording, I didn't do it. And I really believed I was innocent if I didn't get convicted, you know, and just very immature things like that. But I'm a member of a home group, and then my life starts getting better, and it starts getting better, and I get better opportunities about things. And I went through some periods where I wasn't a committed home group member, and I got focused on my business interest and having things and stuff, and that's okay. I mean, that's okay. Well, at least my sponsor told me it was. It's okay to want him to do things, but I can't get our priorities out of line. Another, Steve M. from Principals Group in Raleigh told me something one day at about 4 years sober, because I was, I wasn't quite as happy as I was, and things weren't going quite as good. And he had a lot of experience, and he told me one day, he said, Drew, I found out that men that fit AA in their life and get to AA and sponsor people when it's convenient for them seem to have a lot of problems. But the men that build their life around Alcoholics Anonymous and make that their number one priority seem not to have very many problems. And that's been my experience, and I'm certainly not 100% consistent with that, but and getting back to my children and things like that, some of those other phone calls. I called my daughter one time, and I was on Salisbury Street in downtown Raleigh, and she was a freshman in college, pretty sure a freshman in college, and I stopped and had to use a payphone, and I got her on her cell phone, and I started talking about how I'm going to help you with your college, I'm going to help you with your school, and I'm going to get back. I get to go to work and probably 2 or 3 more weeks in the shelter. I remember like it was yesterday, she said, I just want a dad. I'll take care of the college. I just want a dad. I said, man, what a lousy plan Drew Fish had. What a lousy plan I had. And, I got to those levels, and I got those levels, and that wasn't the right plan for me. That was my plan. And then my sponsor has walked me every day so I can search, and I can seek, and I can find God's plan for me. And it's true, his plan is so much better than anything I could have ever. The book's clear about that too. And I want things. And if y'all knew how much writing and how much service work I've done on ego deflation, imagine that. and humility and everything. I can't even always say it, but I'm trying really hard to get better and better and better, and and I jump around too. I got severe bipolar disorder. I've got a file this thick that said I'm completely nuts, totally whacked out. I had 11 types of mood stabilizer the day I went to the treatment center, 11 different bottles of it. And it says, and I got it at home. I'll produce it in 6 or 7 minutes. It says, never to return to work ever again, no social skills, complete wacko. And the steps and everything has fixed me where I don't have to take any medication anymore. And I would never tell anybody I'm not a doctor. I just told you my experience. So don't say this guy talking at AA said to not take medicine, that's been my experience. I've been able to do without it. And because I really think the psychiatrist was burning that nationwide insurance card up, to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, if she was here, I'd tell her face, yes, I think you did that. And I'm able to communicate about things, and I've got it right about the things I like. And my family will tell you, and the guys that came with me, they'll tell you, you act stupid in my house, somebody else can leave. Bye. Pop the clutch, hit the gas. See you later. If you want to change your attitude, you're welcome back. And it doesn't bother me a bit. But it took time. I had to do fatherly things, and I had to actually pray and meditate and seek God in order to get that, feeling where it's not necessary. I want everybody here to like me, and I want to do a good job. But I'll be honest with you, it's not totally necessary for me to be happy tonight. And I always say the same thing because I've worked real hard on not being a people pleaser and everything. If you're new in here and you don't like the way I said things, and don't like what I said, don't like my white jacket, I'm glad you're here. If you despise everything that I said and the way I look, I'm glad you're here. And if I disgust you and you want to throw up, I'm really glad you're here, and I hope you come back. Because I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be okay. And my whole life, what's wrong? Me and Caroline's the worst. She's worse than me, but she's doing great right now. And we're able, as a family with her, we're able to share things. And she calls me, and one of my sisters called me, and her nephew, and God has helped me with everything in my life. I could talk for 2 days, about what his age done for me. But one of my other sisters called me, and her nephew was drinking, and they said, we're not going to allow you to drink in the house, and drive our jet skis. They were at a beach house. And the mother came, which was the sister-in-law. She said, if he's going, I'm going. And then the grandmother came in there. You're not going to tell him what he's going to do and what he's not going to do. If he's got to leave, we're all leaving. And my sister went upstairs, and she was right in the middle of things. And just like me, when I get in the middle of things, I can't see what's going on. It was in the middle of things. She called me and she said, what do I do? I said, my mother-in-law is going to leave too. She's got 3 daughters. I said, go get your 3 daughters, go downstairs, and compromise your family principles right in front of your 3 daughters. That's what you need to do. She said, I'm not doing that. I said, well, tell them to leave then. And don't come back. Because they didn't fall within the boundaries of a reasonable, responsible home. And, I used to get caught up in that too, and I'd make excuses for people because I wanted them to like me. And I would expose things to my children and my friends and everything because I wanted people to like me. And I still do. But it's not necessary. And I'm gonna end a little early because it's hot and not a little bit early, but I just want to tell you again, the directions are is in our book, and our literature is unbelievable, and I didn't believe it. I thought y'all were foolish, and I was wrong. It tells me very clear that if you're a committed member, that you can rebuild your life. recreate and rebuild. It's in writing. It's in the black parts that I talked about, and the book will do that for you. And the main purpose of this book is for you to find a God that'll help you solve your problem. And that's what it's done for me. I mean, and this is the real deal. Alcoholics Anonymous really, really works. And I was the dummy. But it's, I told you about all my problems and that kind of person I was. I have the same defects of my character that I had the first day that I got here on April 16, 2001. I've still got those character defects. But Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me not to let it run my life. Because this is a spiritual disease and the whiskey is just a symptom. It's in the book. I'll throw the book at you. You know, like the judge did me. Last time I went to see the judge, I had all that pitch music and everything. I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, you don't understand." She said, "You don't understand. Get him out of here." Just kidding, you know. Sorry. But, you know, and it's okay to be laughed, but I'm really serious about it. And I can't tell you, you know, I reiterate things and go over it again, but I want everybody, especially if you're new, don't try this alone. Get a lady that you want to be like, not somebody that dresses cool or, you know, or whatever. Get somebody that you want to be like and you want their heart. I want that guy, I want to be like that guy that came to the jailhouse with a wife, golf clubs, and a car, sacrificing. That's what anonymity means. That's what Bill said. Self-sacrifice for others in the group. That's what it really means. I wanted to be like that guy because that was just foreign to me. I wanted to get the money, what I wanted, so I could get the girl and I could get in the newspaper. And I got the girl and she threw me out. She needs to. And I'm in debt to her. Can't get out of debt to her. So I said that publicly. Can't get out of debt. And I know it. Good. And no touching. I understand that too. All right, there. See, that's okay. I don't mind telling y'all that. It's cool. It's all right. You know, because I'm the bad guy. But you know, they just don't run my life, and it really is an honor and a privilege to be at an anniversary. I've been here 30 years. It's a nice group, nice people, nice food, and I'm a guy from Fuquay, and I had a lot of problems, guys. And what I want to share with you, and I hope my point come across, is that I'm not the same guy that when I was here. I had a profound change in attitude and behavior, and y'all just gave it to me. Guys like Jackie will just give it to you, man. They don't want nothing to see you do better. And if you want to go join the Rotary Club or be a politician or join the JCs or something like that, to have at it, man. This is the real deal. I'm glad to hear. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. Don't throw that tape away. I didn't know you said that. I might get locked up again.